Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of Step into the Pivot. We have a wonderful guest with us today, Lauren Loehning. And Lauren, you are such a delight to talk to. You are full of really exciting information for us. I can't wait for us to dive in. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's wonderful to be here.
Lauren, you are obviously someone who is, when people look at your bio and they look you up on LinkedIn, you have, big presence in financial services. This is how we met. You work as a respected partner at Retirement Impact, and you've also co-founded a really beautiful endeavor, Moneywell, and we'll hear more about that. And when I first noticed in your professional, expressions out there, it was immediately clear that you are very community focused, that you're very gender diversity focused, and that you also have a really big comfort level teaching and talking about mindfulness, meditation, and bringing in that conversation and coupling it with the discussion about money. So we are so excited to have you here today and hear from the perspective of your expertise, but also from your heart about all these different topics. And again, welcome you to the show and passing on to Teresa to
Yeah.
introduce you further and get us going with questions.
Yeah, I got to meet Lauren a few years ago and my first experience when we met was we were at a conference, and the first day we were there, you came up and led us through a meditation. And we did that again this year. And I was very interested in that because I think your meditation, and as we've gotten to know each other better, your meditation and your the mindfulness piece of that and how that goes forward with your money well really resonates with me. And even I talked about that a little bit, but let's kind of start by talking about your meditation practice, how that's impacted you, why you started doing that, because I think I know it's a really important part of your life. So we'd love to hear that.
Absolutely. And thank you both again for having me on. This is a real pleasure, and kudos to you for this podcast. I've listened to some of the past episodes and always get a little something every time. So great work there. So meditation has been part of my life in a very formal way for about 9 years. I would say before that, it was not on my radar in the sense that I know it today. I've been practicing yoga and sort of body awareness for over 2 decades, close to 25 years. It was something I started in college. So that was kind of my take on it for many, many years. But about 9 years ago, I got really interested in more about the mind body relationship versus just the body, being in movement. And I got into it because life was getting hard. I had a couple of little kids. I had a job where I was traveling a lot, and a lot of pressure from work and just trying to figure out how do you fit a family into this with a marriage, and everything kind of just felt uncomfortable, stressful. I was kept trying to run a little bit faster, and I wasn't catching up. So I ended up connecting with a coach who was a Zen master, and he really kind of laid the groundwork for me in a meditation practice and walked me through it for about 2 years, introduced me to it. It was part of our weekly discussions. And I'm one of those learners that when I find something I'm interested in, I go real deep. Like when I got into financial services, I was like, okay, how many designations can I get? And when I learned about mindfulness, it's like, how many books can I read? How many teachers can I get exposed to? How many practices can I learn about? And I finally landed on this practice of Vipassana. And after a couple of years of informal kind of training on my own with this teacher, I signed up for a 2-year teacher training program where I got to dive really deep for about a year and a half. And then spent 6 months doing a practicum, a teacher training in my community, spent some time on retreat. Notably, the longest was about a 7-day silent retreat in Western Mass at Insight Meditation Center. So really, ever since I got that first taste of what this is and how it can impact my life and the freedom that I found in the practice, it was just something that I just kept wanting to learn more about, to the point where it changed my life in so many ways that it was something that I felt passionately about sharing and teaching with everyone in my community. So it's been such a wonderful journey. And if you think about meditation and teachers, I'm a newbie. Even though I'm 9 years in, it may seem like a long time. I have nothing on some of these people that I'm out there training with. They've been doing this for decades, which is interesting because the practice is always evolving and changing, and you're always learning something new. There's another layer or something. And as a human being, we're constantly forgetting stuff, right? We have to be reminded, which is why this practice is so beautiful. So when you sit down into a meditation practice, it is like almost a constant reminder of getting yourself back on track into that place of really centeredness, where you can see things clearly and have clear experiences without all of the noise of the outside world. So I would say it's impacted my life in a positive way in every aspect. So it's something I continue to learn and have a big part of my life.
I love hearing from you about it, Lauren, because it really resonates. I would really welcome a side conversation about, like geeking out. I'd love to know all the details of what you do and how you do it. I practice meditation on a regular basis too. And similarly, the reason I started consistently was because it felt awful. That's why, a long history of, dabbling with it, being inconsistent, practicing yoga, 20 plus years of, regular, openness to what is out there, what is out there. But when it comes to consistent, regular meditative practice, that started because I wasn't feeling good.
Hmm.
And I love that you own that and that you brought in the complexities, that there were these pressures from a variety of different areas of your life, and then went under. In the practice that I do, we talk about, dropping to like the bottom of the ocean and experiencing a sense of peace and calm, even though at the surface of it there might be so much noise and so many waves and, a lot of, cacophony and birds and, wind. But if you allow yourself some time to settle, you can experience on a regular basis a sense of like, wait, okay, peaceful, calm.
Hmm.
And it's not, I know you weren't, that's not what you were suggesting, but it's not a competition. It's not like, hey, I meditated more than you. When you talked about yourself being a newbie, I just want to, say for our listeners, you're not talking about it being a competition of any kind, like
Right.
I'll get better at it than you. It's not like that at all. Um, so I would love to hear more about the integration of your meditative practice into your daily life and, talk about those areas of life that you've presenced in the beginning. Is this now helping really when you think about your relationships, your work?
Hmm. Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's helped in a positive way in every relationship that I have in my life, and because it was so powerful, I knew that there was a place for it in financial services. I knew that there was this type of wisdom that has been around for, thousands of years, had a place in modern society. It had a place in financial, as I said, financial services, and especially a place with the people that I work with on a daily basis. I have a retirement plan practice. I work with many companies, higher ed, nonprofit, a lot of manufacturing companies out there. This is the everyday person who's out there sitting on the factory floor, dealing with the stress and pressures of life. And this wisdom I felt could be so invaluable for those people. So when I first started out on this venture, it was I'm going to teach mindfulness to all of the participants that I work with. It's going to be great. Everyone's going to sit down and we're going to learn together. But lo and behold, I realized after I kind of created a course and offered this up to some of the HR folks that people would take me up on it once, right? But nobody wanted me there every week. I don't know that I was going to be there every week, but I was holding some online sessions on a weekly basis. And I just realized that people have to really be ready to take that step, right? Not everyone's ready to just dive into a meditation or mindfulness practice. They're just trying to get food on the table and they don't have the time in their day to do that. Um, but I knew that there was a place, and which was kind of this kind of integrating my money well opportunity is when I realized that, okay, not everyone's going to do this or sign up for a class or sit down and meditate with me on a weekly basis. How else can we integrate this into people's lives? And that's about the time I met Jennifer Rayner, who founded Moneywell back in 2020. I met her in 2022. and learned what she was doing with kind of text-based messages, short, emotive, really tackling that emotional side of money, sharing new perspectives, sharing awareness about your relationship with money, talking about things like values-based spending, and integrating many of the wisdom that you get, much of the wisdom you get from mindfulness, but doing it in a way that people can consume today, right? In a way that they're willing to accept it. So that's why I'm really excited about the work that we're doing at Moneywell, because it's taking bits and pieces of this wisdom that I feel is so powerful for individuals and putting it into a format that people are accepting of in today's world that fits into their lifestyle. We're not trying to say, "Hey, come over here." We're meeting them where they're at, and that's why I find it to be really powerful and excited about
Lauren,
what we did.
before Teresa asks you our next question, I needed to jump in here because I'm like, I can just hear our listeners like, so asking on behalf of them. Can you give us an example? This bit that you talked about here with Moneywell, what would be an example of something that is, here it is. Here is an affirmation or a message or something you really want people to know. But and it is, backed up with this, thousands plus year old technology essentially. It's not a text technology. What's an example of something that would be a
Yeah, I
message
will
that you
give
want
you the
people to know?
simplest example because it's really this simple. It's this idea of you're not alone, right? You're not alone in your financial stress. You're not alone in your struggles. Most Americans, struggle with financial stress. But if you ask the average person, they feel very much alone on that journey. They feel like they made the wrong decisions or they didn't do the right thing at the right time or save enough money and that it's all on them. So it's this idea of you're not alone. Like many people struggle with this, and we have ways to get out of that, right? Having people really understand and accept those emotions that come up and realizing that it's not necessarily their fault and empowering them with new messages, new perspectives on how they can get on a path to feeling better. But just because you're feeling this feeling of fear when you think about your retirement in the future, that doesn't have to be, that fear can be transformed into empowerment, right? You doesn't have to just overtake you. You turn away. I can't do that. That's too hard. We can really work with those feelings and get people to a place where you're starting with you're not alone. You're sharing new perspectives. You're talking about different tools or techniques they might be able to do that they weren't aware of to start saving, maybe an emergency savings account or whatever it is. So it's really integrating this into these not only the emotional aspect, but really functional tools to get them on that path. So it's really integrating both just the feelings and the empowerment, and then, okay, well, what's next? Does that make sense? Yeah.
No, that totally, to me makes sense because I think you're exactly right. I think people sometimes don't know where to start. They think they're alone in their journey. They think, all these things, or maybe they, and you see a couple of different things. You see like young adults who maybe mom and dad always kind of paid for everything and helped them, and now they're on their own, or vice versa. I have some friends who are younger and their parents never really had money, and now they have a pretty good job and now they're bringing home more money than they kind of ever expected. And they don't know how to deal with that. So now they think they should just spend all of that, right?
Yeah.
Like, and not thinking about the future. So I
Mhm.
think there is a definite connection there. And, I think my next question to you, right? We went from meditation to money, but I think that meditation and mindfulness go together. And to me, whether you meditate or not, mindfulness is kind of a part of meditation, right? I would tell you, I don't meditate, but I am very mindful, and that may mean different things to different people. So I'd love for you to talk about that, and I'd love for you to talk about how that transitions to money, because and that doesn't only transition, my meditation and mindfulness don't only transition to money, they transition to so many things in our life. They transition to health, they transition to, overall feelings, they transition to family and time spent and work. And but I'd really love for you to kind of bring that full circle for our
Yeah,
listeners.
sure. When I think of meditation and mindfulness, I like to think of it as kind of the meditation piece is the going to the gym piece, right? You go to the gym, you work out so that you can have a healthy life, right? So the meditation is the actual practice, the sitting, the working with the busy mind, the working with the emotions, the working with just the different feelings that are coming through. And the mindfulness is that moment to moment experience of paying attention and being present without judgment in your day-to-day life, right? How am I integrating this into our conversation right now, or that, hard discussion I'm going to have with one of my associates, or a fight I had with my husband, right? How am I going to integrate that into those moments, right? Or my kids, right? It is such a powerful tool to integrate into your day-to-day life, but so very hard to remember because we're human and our brains are not wired to be present. They're wired to be looking ahead, to be protecting ourselves from making looking back to make sure we don't do anything again for the second time, because we want to be safe, we want to be protected, right? And our brains have been doing this and trying to protect us for thousands and thousands of years. And we really need to kind of step out of that, knowing that we're safe and really bringing in this present moment awareness, and knowing that, we don't have to listen to all the noise, to all the stories, to those random thoughts of we're not enough, or we can't do this, or, judgment or fear that pop in. And we can just really, meditation gives us the tools to tune that out, right? And mindfulness would be the practice day to day. So that's really how I like to think about it and delineate the two.
Hmm. Yeah, I like that a lot, and it resonates. And you just uh, helped me think about something a little differently than I've ever thought about it before. You know how you said it's hard to remember to do it. It is helpful to be reminded that it is like going to the gym. So then when you describe that, I'm thinking about it in terms of, important to realize that it's cumulative benefit. So when I sit down to meditate, sometimes it's an amazing experience. Sometimes it really will feel in real time like, wow, this was a really good use of 20 minutes. Most of the time, no. Most of the time, it's not anything special. Sometimes it's very uncomfortable. Sometimes things will come up that I don't want to look at or see. That's not why I do it. I don't do it for those 20 minutes 2 times a day. We do it because of the cumulative benefit. That's the gym workout piece that
Mhm.
you were talking about. So there's a cumulative benefit, and the consistency is more important than a massive amount of meditation occasionally. Now, you with Vipassana, you might go away and carve out that time when you'll go deeper, bigger, you'll do a bigger retreat. But would you agree with me that the consistency
Oh,
is
100%.
what's really important? And so here's where I had the aha moment about like, wow, this is so cool for our listeners who do work with retirement plans. It's like the cumulative benefit, like saving a little bit, putting away for retirement is not a one-time gig, right?
Right.
It's a process.
Yep.
So thank you for
No,
that. I just had a,
excellent parallel. Yeah, no, absolutely. It's definitely, your muscles get stronger the more you work them. And that's just like your brain. The more you work that muscle, the stronger it's going to become, the less caught you'll get. And so you're still going to get caught all the time with different things. But what I've noticed over time is that I bounce back a lot faster, right? Things don't take me down for long, right? I'm much more quick to realize when I am acting out of line, or have bad false perspective, or are thinking about something in a way that, might not, someone else might not agree with. So that's what's really powerful about it. And I would say one of my favorite things, and my one of my biggest growing edges probably, 5 years ago, was this idea of self-compassion, really being able to be compassionate with yourself when you have a hard meditation or you have a hard day at work, knowing that, like, that is okay, and it got me tuning into this kind of inner critic that we all have in our head, the little judge who likes to sit there and tell you all the things that you're doing wrong, and really befriending that part of me and really being compassionate with myself. I would say that has been one of the most powerful things, that has benefited me, not only to build resilience as I'm working with this startup, but to build resilience in my relationships and build resilience, just in general in life. And that's something that I think is very much a part of the mindfulness and meditation practice, that self-compassion piece.
Yeah, and I really love that. And, for those of our listeners who maybe, don't meditate or maybe want to get into it, right? And I think that there's other ways you can meditate, right? Whether that's, for me, it's like we've talked about before, I typically go out for a 20-minute walk every morning. It clears my mind, it gets me started. So it's my form probably of meditation,
Yep.
right? I might listen to a podcast, I might just listen to music, I might just listen to the birds singing, depending on what time of year it is, right? So there's those kind of things. Can you talk maybe for a minute before we ask our final question about how somebody could get started, like just very simply, since this is January and new year, new you, maybe somebody wants to just start simply. Could you just spend a minute maybe talking about that?
Yeah, absolutely. And Katie Milkman, I don't know if you're familiar with her. She's got a great book on behavior change and how to change. I think it's her most recent book. But she always talks about January as one of those fresh start moments, right? You have a fresh start. It's a great opportunity to pick up a new habit or something that you want to integrate in your life. And so oftentimes when I'm teaching meditation, one of the biggest things I hear from the folks in my classes is that, I've tried this before. It's just not for me. So and so dragged me here. I'm doing it for her. Like, I've just, I've been down this road, but it's just not for me. And what I always try to get people to really, really think about is that it the goal, at least in Vipassana meditation, is not to sit there and clear your brain. So be really open to the fact that what do you think meditation is? What are you looking to get out of this, right? If you're looking to achieve some goal, some inner peace, that's not the purpose of necessarily a Vipassana practice, which is the type of meditation I teach. It's really about just tuning in to those voices in your head, those thoughts that you think, and noticing when they come up, and then just going back to some sort of a focal point. Maybe it's your breath, maybe it's your body. And that even the smallest amount of time, one of my students, I think that she started meditating by waiting for her tea to boil. So it was about, I don't know, a minute and a half, and that was her time. Even if it's a couple of deep breaths, it's a great start. So, but I'm a big fan of structure, and I do better with a schedule. So when I started my practice, it's the first thing I do in the morning. I don't do if I do anything else first, I kind of get derailed. Like I always know this is the first thing I have to do. So I have to get up a little bit earlier. I have to make sure none of my kids are awake. And obviously things come up along the way, but fit it into your life where however you can that makes sense for you. So maybe you schedule 5 minutes before you start your day on your calendar, right? And put it in there so you have an accountability to actually do that. And just, see what works. Sitting in your chair, focusing on your breath or your body can be really helpful, but there is no strict definition of what meditation or mindfulness is for you. You mentioned walking, Teresa. That is a very powerful tool. When I go on meditation retreats, that's part of it. You are doing a walking meditation for, follow every time you sit, you walk after that. And that's just the flow of that type of a retreat. So there's so many different ways. And even just just every time you get into your car, 30 seconds, right? Just little micro steps throughout your day can be a great place to start, and don't make it anything it's not, right? It's not this big grandiose thing. It's very small steps you're not going to go to the gym and run 10 miles if you've never run a mile, right? You're going to get on the treadmill, you're going to walk a mile. The next day, maybe you'll walk a little more, maybe you'll start to jog, right? And you just have this slow build over time. And that's kind of the best way, I think, to integrate really anything new into your life, and especially mindfulness.
So when you look back on the experiences that you've had that led you to start practicing regularly, if you consider those experiences as your pivots, how would you say now that you have been doing this regularly, 9 years of, incrementally, making that change, becoming more available to yourself and to life? How was that pivot towards, regular meditative practice a step forward in your life?
Because it was the first time I had actually turned inward. I had been outward focused my entire life. How fast can I run? How high can I climb? What else can I do? And I had never really done the inner work, which is interesting because I spent a lot of time in our church going on retreats. But I guess that just never really landed fully with me. I don't think they were teaching those skills that resonated with me at the time. But that was a big pivot to turn inward and to really focus on, okay, well, what is important to me, and what do I want to get out of my life? I don't want to be you know, I'm not on this, I didn't want to be on the corporate ladder anymore. I wanted to work for myself. I wanted to have a real impact in the lives of the people that I was serving through my retirement plan practice. And so those were the things that were really important to me. And just so grateful for the fact that I have this in my life, because if I didn't, I would be in a very different place and I would not be happy. It would be a struggle. It would be like a struggle like it was before. So I'm very grateful that I have this tool, and which is why I'm so passionate about sharing it with people in my life and people in my community. And to the extent that we can even integrate it into the workplace is going to be really exciting to see.
I love everything about what you just said because it's totally true. We need to take that time. It's so hard to take that time for ourselves, but whatever that looks like, I think that's really the important message here, right? Because you have to be yourself before you can be anything for anybody else and be the best you can be. So that's what I got from you, what you said, Lauren. And I think you gave us an amazing number of great tips today. Even at any final thoughts before we let Lauren go?
I wanted to reflect on when you said that part about, the one of the statements that you communicate through your Money Well initiative is you're not alone. It is, I would love to invite anybody who is here inspired by us to try meditating to see how you can actually really get in touch with this sensation, physical sensation and emotional state of you're not alone when you take some time for yourself, by yourself, in that quiet time when you are physically alone. That for me has been one of the most interesting revelations about, meditative practice. That moment in the morning that you said before anybody else gets up, when I'm in my solo practice, I was like, oh, I'm really not alone. It's not a cliche. It's an actual lived experience. So thank you for that affirmation, Lauren. It's such a great reminder.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And thank you for the work you're doing here. I think it's really fun to listen to the different people you bring on your show and the perspectives. And I think it's a really fresh take and something that I'm sure our industry is appreciative. So thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Lauren. Thank you to everybody who listened today. Really great conversation. So remember, whatever works for you for that new year, new you is amazing. And also one final reminder is if you have a pivot, step into it. Thanks, everybody.